Benjamin looked up at the dark sky, where the stars shone brightly against the winter night. Beside him, Madeline huddled under his coat to keep warm in the chilly countryside. The soft glow of the fire lit their faces, and the crackling of burning wood was the only sound breaking the silence around them. They had lived in that simple house since the start of their marriage, choosing to rely on the land, the animals, and the rhythms of planting and harvest. But lately, the promise of a peaceful life seemed to drift further from reach. The land that had once given them pride and sustenance now offered only hardships. The approaching winter was harsher than ever, and their food and fuel supplies were dwindling. "Ben," Madeline whispered into the night, "what if this dream isn't enough?" Benjamin held her cold hand and managed a reassuring smile. He was the optimist between them, always finding a way to see the good in things. But even he felt the weight of their worries. "We'll find a way, Maddie. An opportunity will come." Even as he said it, he knew they needed more than faith. They needed something real, a job, an offer, anything. Madeline looked into his eyes, searching for some certainty. "If we stay here with no other income, I don't know how we'll get through winter," she admitted, closing her eyes to hide the tears that threatened to fall. The life they dreamed of was rooted here, but now it felt as if they'd have to find wings, ready to leave. Days passed without a solution until one cold afternoon. While Benjamin was in town buying supplies, unexpected news arrived. Old Harvey, a farmer who lived many miles away, was offering work and housing to anyone willing to take on the demanding jobs his farm required. Harvey was known for his gruff personality and high expectations, but also for rewarding those who met his standards. Benjamin returned home with a pounding heart, clutching a note with Harvey's address, given to him by a neighbor. When he entered the house, red-cheeked from the cold and eyes shining with excitement, he found Madeline quietly packing their few belongings. She stopped when she saw him, a mixture of exhaustion and hope in her eyes. "Did you find something?" she asked, her voice a fragile blend of hope and weariness. Benjamin sat beside her and showed her the note. "Harvey needs help on his farm. They're offering room and board and a small salary. It's not much, but it's a chance. A new possibility." Madeline took the note and read the short message, as if trying to absorb each word. Harvey's name brought a mixture of hope and hesitation. She knew the work would be hard, but recent months had already shown that nothing in this life was simple. "If we do this, we'll leave everything behind," she murmured, more to herself than to Benjamin. He nodded, understanding her doubts. The decision wasn't easy. Living off the land had always been their goal, and leaving meant giving up their home, the fields they had cultivated, the nights around the fire, and the promises they had planted in that soil. But it also meant survival, a chance to escape the struggle of winter and a reason to keep going. That night, lying side by side, Madeline rested her head on Benjamin's chest, listening to the gentle rhythm of his breathing. For the first time, she felt that this decision might just be the beginning of a new path. The morning was gray and chilly when Benjamin and Madeline packed their few belongings into an old cart lent to them by a neighbor. Every item they loaded carried a memory, a small piece of the life they were leaving behind. Madeline's clay bowl used for baking bread, Benjamin's worn straw hat, and the well-used farming tools. With each piece, the two shared a glance, both fully aware that this change was more than just physical. It was a break from the dream they had nurtured for so long. The journey to Harvey's farm would take most of the day. Heavy clouds hinted at snow, and the biting wind forced them to bundle up in everything they had. As dry hills and crooked trees passed by on the dusty road, they remained silent, each lost in their own thoughts. The path was rough and uneven, yet despite this, Madeline, seated next to Benjamin, felt an unexpected calm, as if this difficult choice was the only one they could have made. Gradually, the landscape began to shift as they neared Harvey's farm. The soil looked richer, the smell of burning wood drifted toward them, and, in some places, they could see patches of cultivated land still green despite the winter. In the distance, a large, rustic building loomed, its roof moss-stained and a row of windows darkened with age. The place seemed to hold countless stories, and Madeline felt a twinge of unease at the sight of the imposing manor. When they reached the farm's gate, they were greeted by a robust man with a watchful gaze and serious features, who observed them with cautious curiosity. This was Harvey. He looked them up and down, pausing on Benjamin, his expression unreadable, as though silently testing him. "You're the new workers, right?" he said without ceremony, signaling for them to follow him. The inside of the farm was orderly but utilitarian, almost lifeless. There were no decorations or comfort. Everything was strictly practical and straightforward. Harvey led them to a small, secluded house, tucked among ancient trees, with a low fence and moss covering the door. When he opened it, the scent of damp wood and dust filled the air. It was no luxury, but it was shelter. "You'll stay here. The work is tough, and I don't tolerate laziness or excuses," Harvey warned, his gravelly voice echoing off the walls of the house. "Fair treatment for those who work hard." With those words, he left them alone. Benjamin and Madeline exchanged a glance, taking in the simplicity of their new home. The floor creaked, drafts slipped through the windows, and the roof looked like it could use a few repairs, but it was a new beginning. With an encouraging smile, Benjamin took Madeline's hand. "Well, Maddie, let's make this a home." Despite the exhaustion and anxiety about what lay ahead, Madeline felt warmed by his touch. She knew that as long as they were together, any place could become a home. The next morning, even before the sun rose, Benjamin and Madeline started adapting to their new routine. Harvey, with his stern expression and sharp gaze, appeared early to give them their first set of instructions. Benjamin would be responsible for tending the animals, maintaining the barns, and cleaning the grounds, while Madeline would assist in the kitchen and help with chores in the main house. Benjamin spent the day among bales of hay and the acrid scent of the stables. The work was hard, and his muscles soon began to feel the strain, yet he tackled each task with a newfound determination. He knew that every chore brought them one step closer to the stability they hadn't felt in a long time. The farm was vast, and he was surprised by the unending nature of the work. At noon, he allowed himself a brief pause, taking in the expanse of the fields while the cold wind cut through his clothes. Standing there, beneath the open sky, he realized he would need every bit of strength and patience to take on this challenge. Meanwhile, Madeline faced her own set of challenges in the main house. Harvey's kitchen was organized and stocked, but she noticed it lacked a woman's touch, those small details that made a space feel welcoming. She spent the first few hours cleaning and arranging things, seeing what was needed to make it more functional. The other workers, serious and reserved women, watched her quietly, keeping their distance. Still, Madeline remained polite and unassuming, aware that trust would take time. At the end of the day, Benjamin and Madeline reunited in their small house. Exhausted, they sat at the rough wooden table, where Madeline had prepared a simple soup with the few ingredients they had. The silence between them was heavy yet comfortable. Benjamin, his hands sore from the labor, looked at Madeline and saw the same quiet strength in her that he'd always admired. "It was a good start," he said, breaking the silence with a tired smile. Madeline smiled back, and in that moment, despite the weariness, they both felt that perhaps, just perhaps, they had made the right choice. Benjamin went about his daily tasks on the farm with a steady smile and a calm cheerfulness that didn't go unnoticed. Over time, his co-workers began to notice that, despite the difficulties, Benjamin maintained a quiet joy that seemed unaffected by the cold, the exhaustion, or the lack of luxury. He faced each day's work with energy, and as his enthusiasm spread, others began to wonder how he managed to stay so upbeat. One day, while hauling bales of hay alongside Peter, a fellow worker, Peter finally broke the silence that had existed between them. Watching Benjamin with a furrowed brow, Peter glanced over as he lifted another bale. "Tell me something, Ben," he began, getting straight to the point. "How can you work like that? So happy. The pay isn't much and the work is tough. Most of us are here because we don't have another choice." Benjamin paused for a moment, wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, and leaned against the bale. He looked at Peter with sincerity, seeing in him a man who, like so many others here, approached the job only as a duty. "Peter," Benjamin began, "I knew this wasn't going to be easy. I knew the pay wouldn't be high and the conditions would be hard. But when I chose this job, I knew what I was getting into. So, if I decided to be here, it's my responsibility to give it my best." Peter blinked, intrigued. "And that's enough for you? Because to me, sometimes it feels like I'm trapped." Benjamin smiled. "The thing is, nobody forced me to come here. Madeline and I chose this. When you make a choice on your own, you accept everything that comes with it, both the good and the bad. And if we're here, what good is it to complain? The boss gave us a chance, and it's up to us to make something of it. I could see this place as a prison, but I prefer to see it as a chance to learn, to grow." Peter, who had previously looked skeptical, now watched Benjamin with a thoughtful expression. "So, to you, the boss isn't to blame for any of this? Even with the low pay and the hard work?" Benjamin shook his head. "The work is what it is, Peter. And Harvey didn't promise us more than this. If I accepted these terms, then it's up to me to honor them. What motivates me is knowing that if I do my best here, it's for me, for what I want to build with Madeline. The joy of doing something well, even when it's tough, brings a kind of satisfaction that no one else can give me or take away." Peter fell silent, absorbing his friend's words. It was as if something had shifted inside him. For the first time, he began to see that perhaps the key wasn't in the conditions or the pay, but in how they chose to approach what they did. That night, Benjamin's words continued to echo in Peter's mind, and as he shared the conversation with other workers, he noticed Benjamin's perspective had left a deep impression. Many, who had previously viewed their work on the farm as a sacrifice, began to see that they could change how they approached their daily tasks. After all, perhaps true freedom lay in choosing how to live, even within hardship. And so, by sowing what he believed in with each conversation, Benjamin began to transform not only his own life but the lives of everyone around him. Benjamin's conversation with Peter brought a fresh perspective to the other workers. Slowly, the heavy atmosphere around the farm began to shift. People started approaching their daily tasks with a lighter spirit, each finding their own reason to work more wholeheartedly. The effect was subtle at first, but it soon spread. Harvey, always observant, noticed that something in the farm's atmosphere had changed. The workers were more organized, more helpful, and even their communication seemed to improve. He watched all this with a mix of surprise and skepticism, unsure of what exactly was causing this change. Benjamin, however, was unconcerned with the origin of his influence. Instead, he went about his work with steady dedication, keeping the same quiet smile and positive attitude. As he saw the results of his efforts, he felt renewed each day, finding a purpose that extended beyond immediate rewards. He realized that purpose lay in doing his best, wherever he happened to be. Meanwhile, Madeline continued making subtle transformations in the farm's kitchen. The other women gradually began to gather around her, curious and eager to hear her ideas for making the space more pleasant. Over time, the meals became more flavorful, and the kitchen turned into a warm gathering spot. Amid the scent of freshly baked bread and the warmth of the oven, Madeline would talk about the future, the importance of caring for one's surroundings, and how small actions could lead to big changes. One afternoon, as she and Sarah prepared a batch of cakes for the workers, Sarah shared a thought that had been on her mind. "Madeline, since you and Benjamin arrived, it feels like this place has come to life," Sarah said, stirring the batter rhythmically. "Do you really think these small changes make a difference?" Madeline smiled, wiping her hands on her apron. "I do, Sarah. Sometimes all we need to hold on to hope are these little things, a shared meal, a tended garden, a true friendship. Life may be tough, but that doesn't mean it can't be beautiful. The simplicity of her words struck Sarah deeply, and she realized that perhaps, here on the farm, they could cultivate more than just the land. They could cultivate a better life, a place of support where each person could find strength and purpose. Inspired by her conversations and the positive effect she saw around her, Madeline proposed something new to Harvey, creating a garden beside the main house. Harvey initially looked at her with surprise and hesitation but couldn't deny that the changes on the farm had been beneficial and that Madeline had become a respected figure among the workers. "A garden, you say?" Harvey asked, his expression serious. "And why exactly do we need a garden, Madeline? This is a working farm, not a country estate." Madeline smiled, undeterred. "I believe a garden would bring a bit of color and life to our surroundings, Mr. Harvey. It would also give the workers a place to rest their minds. A space like that makes a difference, even if it seems small." Harvey pondered for a moment, observing the conviction in her eyes. Finally, he sighed and nodded. "Do as you like, but don't let it interfere with work hours. And use only farm resources, don't ask for anything extra." Grateful for his permission, Madeline began organizing the project. With the support of the other women, she started planting flowers and aromatic herbs in an area near the main house. Benjamin and a few of the men brought tools to help dig the soil and prepare for planting. Little by little, the space began to come to life. Small shoots started to emerge, and the once barren land now reflected the care and dedication of each person involved. Each day, the garden attracted more curious onlookers. Even those who were skeptical about change began to appreciate the beauty it brought, noticing that the environment created a sense of peace and relief, something rare in their days of hard work. One afternoon, Harvey walked past the garden and stopped, gazing at the plants with a contemplative look. He said nothing, but Madeline sensed that he understood the value of the initiative. Harvey was a man who valued practicality, yet seeing the garden in bloom, he seemed to recognize that there was something their words couldn't quite capture. The garden became a source of inspiration for everyone, and the transformation of the environment affected the mindset of the workers as well. Benjamin and Madeline, each in their own way, had become central figures on the farm. Harvey grew increasingly respectful of their work, seeing how this spirit of cooperation and enthusiasm was improving everyone's productivity and satisfaction. One cold evening, after dinner, Harvey approached Benjamin as he was cleaning his tools. "You've brought an interesting change to this place," Harvey remarked, with a slight smile that Benjamin had never seen before. "I never thought I needed a garden, fresh bread, or honest conversations to improve things here. But here we are." Benjamin smiled back, looking at Harvey with sincerity. "Sometimes the small things make the biggest difference, Harvey. Maybe the secret isn't in what we plant or what we do, but in how we choose to do it." Harvey nodded, deep in thought. For the first time, he began to see the farm as more than just a place of work. It was a community, where each person, each effort, and each gesture was part of something greater. That night, Benjamin and Madeline felt that what they were building went beyond a means of survival. It was a purpose that united everyone on the farm and gave them the sense that together, they were part of something meaningful. With the garden flourishing and the community growing closer, Benjamin and Madeline began to think about improving their own home. Although they had tidied up the space as best they could, their small house still needed repairs. The front door, worn and fragile, creaked with every gust of wind, and the darkened walls bore the marks of time and neglect. They knew the renovation wouldn't be easy, but they believed that this transformation could strengthen the sense of pride and belonging on the farm. One afternoon, after finishing his work in the stables, Benjamin mustered up the courage to speak with Harvey about getting materials to fix up their home. He explained that with a few boards and some paint, he could replace the door and give new life to the place they called home. Harvey listened in silence, thinking for a moment before nodding. "If anyone deserves a decent house, it's you two. I'll see what I can get you in terms of paint and wood to help." A few days later, Harvey followed through on his promise, bringing a can of white paint, some new boards, and even a few tools to assist with the repairs. Madeline was thrilled to see the materials, and on the following weekend, she and Benjamin set to work with enthusiasm. Together, they took down the old door, sanded the walls, and painted the house with the care and attention of those transforming a dream into reality. The work took days. Between lunch breaks and the free hours after work, they steadily transformed the small house. The walls received a fresh coat of paint that caught the sunlight, filling their home with a new warmth and brightness. The door was replaced, and Benjamin carefully painted it a soft blue, a color he said would bring luck and welcome to anyone who visited. Madeline planted flowers around the house, creating a simple yet vibrant garden that completed the transformation. Their efforts did not go unnoticed. Their co-workers, seeing Benjamin and Madeline's newly refreshed home, were impressed by how welcoming and cheerful the place had become. For many, this change sparked a new feeling, a desire to take better care of their own spaces. Peter, always an attentive observer, was especially inspired. During one lunch break, he approached Benjamin, looking at the refurbished house with admiration. "This place looks completely different," Peter commented, a slight smile on his face. "Who would have thought that a little paint and a new door could make such a difference?" Benjamin grinned. "It's amazing how small changes can make a place feel like home, isn't it? And we didn't use anything fancy. But when you put effort into something, it transforms the place." Peter nodded, and later that afternoon, he shared Benjamin's idea with other workers, suggesting they consider making simple repairs and improvements to their own houses. The suggestion was met with enthusiasm. Inspired by Benjamin and Madeline's example, many began to dream of small repairs and enhancements they could make to their homes too. Over the next few weekends, the farm transformed into a true community project. Noticing the positive shift, Harvey began providing basic materials for those who wanted to renovate their homes. Cans of paint, tools, and old but sturdy boards circulated among the workers, allowing them to repair and personalize their spaces. Homes that once looked worn and neglected began to brighten with fresh colors. Peter painted his house a light shade and replaced the weathered fence. Sarah and her husband planted a small flower bed around their front door with blooms Madeline had given them. Following their example, other workers started fixing doors, mending windows, and making small improvements that gradually transformed the farm's landscape. With each newly renovated house, the atmosphere around the farm became more vibrant. The simple act of caring for one's space brought a sense of shared pride, a feeling of belonging that reflected in the workers' attitudes and energy. One evening, Harvey invited Benjamin for a conversation under the stars. The two sat outside, and Harvey, with a softer expression than usual, commented, "You've changed more than just your own house, Benjamin. The whole farm is different since you and Madeline arrived. I never imagined a bit of paint and a few repairs could create so much enthusiasm." Benjamin smiled, watching the warm glow from the newly lit windows surrounding them. "I think we all need something that reminds us of the value of what we do. When we take care of the places we live in, our spirits change too. It's as if, by improving our surroundings, we're improving ourselves." Harvey thought quietly, reflecting on the simplicity and depth of Benjamin's words. He now realized the farm was no longer just a place of work. It was becoming a united community, where individual effort and collective care made life more dignified and fulfilling. The transformation of their homes brought new energy to the workers. During breaks, everyone talked excitedly about their improvements, exchanging tips on painting, repairs, and gardening. Families felt motivated to care for their spaces, and slowly, what had once been a mere cluster of worker housing began to resemble a warm, vibrant village full of life and personality. Madeline felt immense pride as she saw the newly painted houses and flourishing gardens around her. She and Benjamin had found a purpose on the farm that extended far beyond simple shelter or wages. They had helped build a community where everyone looked out for each other and cared for the place they shared. At night, gathered around the fire, the workers shared stories, hopes, and dreams for the future. The farm was no longer just a place of hard labor and tight wages. It was a home where everyone felt there was meaning, even in the toughest tasks. For Benjamin and Madeline, knowing they had contributed to this transformation was the greatest reward. The once gray and cold farm now shone with new colors and a renewed spirit. Watching each of their co-workers find joy in their work and homes, Benjamin and Madeline finally felt that they were truly home. With the houses now renovated and the farm looking more alive each day, the workers began to think about new ways to improve their quality of life. Inspired by Benjamin and Madeline's example, many realized that small changes could lead to big transformations. With this newfound mindset, an idea began to take shape. What if each family had a dairy cow of their own? This could allow everyone to produce essential foods like milk, butter, cream, and cheese. Peter first suggested the idea during a conversation around the fire. "We work so hard to make this farm prosper," he said, looking around at his friends. "What if we could produce some of what we consume?" One dairy cow per family would mean fresh milk and the chance to learn to make our own dairy products. The excitement was immediate. Benjamin voiced his support, and Madeline's eyes lit up as she spoke of the possibilities. "Just imagine, we could make cheese, butter, and cream. All of that would not only improve our meals, but also give us a little more independence." The following day, a group went to Harvey to share their proposal. Harvey listened attentively and, after a moment of silence, nodded with a look of approval. "This farm may belong to me, but you're transforming it as if it belonged to all of us. Having your own sustenance is fair. I'll do what I can to help get you those dairy cows." With Harvey's support, the dairy cows arrived at the farm within a few weeks. Each family was assigned a cow to care for, and excitement filled the air. While everyone was thrilled, there was also some nervousness. Most of the workers had no idea how to milk a cow or make butter and cheese. Madeline, who was experienced in the kitchen and familiar with some dairy preparation techniques, offered to teach the basics. She organized a series of hands-on workshops where everyone could learn everything from milking to the fundamental steps of butter and cheese making. In the afternoons, workers gathered around large, makeshift tables as Madeline patiently demonstrated each step. "First, you'll notice fresh milk is different from what we buy at the store," she explained with a smile, shaking a glass jar of milk. "But from this pure milk we get everything: cream, butter, cheese. It just takes a bit of practice and patience." Over time, everyone grew more confident. Peter, initially a skeptic, grew enthusiastic as he watched the cheese take shape for the first time. Sarah, who enjoyed experimenting in the kitchen, tried creating new recipes with the fresh cream and butter. The children, curious and eager, joined in by churning butter, delighting in the feeling of being part of the transformation process. Each batch of fresh dairy became a small victory, and the sense of accomplishment brought everyone closer together. With each churn and every slice of homemade cheese, the workers felt an increasing pride in their self-sufficiency, realizing they were creating something nourishing for their families. The dairy production not only improved the workers' meals, but also created a deeper sense of cooperation among them. Each family, now responsible for their own cow, cared for the animals with pride, understanding that their daily effort brought real, tangible rewards. On days off, the workers gathered to share what they'd produced. Butter, fresh cheese, and cream circulated from house to house, and new homemade recipes blossomed. Benjamin and Madeline encouraged these exchanges, and soon each family had developed their own techniques and flavor preferences. The simple act of sharing strengthened family bonds and underscored the idea that they were building something far more meaningful than just a farm. Over time, an informal marketplace of exchanges developed among the workers. Those with a surplus of cheese traded with those who made more butter, ensuring that everyone had access to a variety of products. Meals became richer and more diverse, and each family took pride in consuming food made by their own hands. The dairy initiative and the spirit of self-sufficiency among the workers also caught Harvey's attention. He observed how the project had unified them and elevated their quality of life, recognizing that something profound and valuable was taking shape. One day, he called Benjamin aside for a private conversation. "You know, I never imagined the farm would change this much since you and Madeline arrived," Harvey said, his gaze softer than Benjamin had ever seen. Benjamin nodded, meeting Harvey's eyes. "I think we're all transforming this place together, Harvey. We're creating a life that's more dignified for each of us." Harvey nodded, thoughtful. "This is more than just work, Benjamin. It's a true community. And I think with what you're all building here, this farm has the chance to become something much bigger than any of us expected." As time passed, Harvey increasingly supported the workers' initiatives, recognizing the positive impact on everyone. The farm, once a place of hard labor and formality, was transforming into a shared home where each person felt valued. By the end of the season, the farm was almost unrecognizable. Madeline's garden bloomed beside the homes, which were now well-maintained and painted in cheerful colors. Each family had a steady supply of milk from their cows, and the exchange of dairy and food products reinforced the strong sense of community. During fireside gatherings, everyone spoke with pride about what they had achieved together. For Benjamin and Madeline, the farm had truly become a home, and they felt they had discovered a genuine purpose. It wasn't about the work or the pay. It was the joy of building something meaningful and lasting alongside people they now considered family. The dairy project, the garden, the culinary exchanges, and the home renovations had turned the farm into a model of unity and progress. It was now a place where each person found meaning and dignity in their work, where every achievement was celebrated and shared. In everyone's eyes, Benjamin and Madeline had brought more than just material changes. They had inspired a profound, collective transformation. That evening, as they gazed out at the farm under a starlit sky, they felt a peace that only comes with finding one's true home. As the months passed, the farm thrived as never before. The workers had gained a level of independence, and their families enjoyed fresher food, renovated homes, and a daily routine that brought pride and dignity. But as the community spirit grew, a new need emerged: education for the children. Madeline was the first to notice the increasing number of children playing around the fields. Over time, the group of children had grown, and they watched the adults work, absorbing the rhythms of life on the farm. Yet Madeline knew they needed more, a chance to learn and grow in ways that would open doors for their future. One evening around the fire, Madeline shared an ambitious idea. "We've accomplished so much together," she began, looking at the gathered families. "Why not take the next step and start a school here on the farm? Our children deserve a chance to learn and to build a brighter future." The suggestion was met with surprise at first, but then excitement spread. Many parents had never received a full education themselves and knew firsthand the limitations it brought. The possibility of offering something better to their children gave Madeline's idea immediate support. The next day, Benjamin approached Harvey to discuss the project. Harvey, ever the serious businessman, listened carefully. "A school?" Harvey repeated, scratching his chin as he looked at Benjamin. "Do you really think that's necessary?" Benjamin nodded, his expression resolute. "The children are the future of the farm, Harvey. If we want them to have choices and a brighter future, we need to give them the tools. Education is the greatest gift we can offer." Harvey was silent for a few moments, reflecting, then finally nodded. "You can use the old barn near the garden. It's filled with junk now, but with a bit of cleaning and organization, it could work as a classroom." With Harvey's blessing, the workers began preparations for the school. There was a lot of work to be done, and the community united in a collective effort to clear and organize the barn. Boards and tools were brought in to repair windows and doors, and the dust was enthusiastically swept away by the children, who already sensed the significance of what was being created. Each worker contributed whatever they could, and parents took particular pride in helping, knowing the impact the school would have on their children. With the barn finally renovated, the next step was to find someone to teach. Madeline, who had a bit of knowledge in reading, writing, and arithmetic, volunteered to start. Sarah and other women who had skills in various areas also offered to help, and together they designed a simple program for the children. On the school's opening day, the children dressed in their best clothes, and families gathered around the barn with pride. The once dark and abandoned space now held wooden tables and an improvised chalkboard. Harvey attended the event, watching from a distance with a thoughtful expression. He didn't say much, but his presence spoke volumes to everyone there. Emotionally moved, Madeline delivered a heartfelt opening speech. Education opens doors to the future, and each child here has the potential to achieve things we never dreamed of. Today, we give them a place to learn, to grow, and to dream. The children took their seats, whispering and giggling as they looked at Madeline. She began with lessons on the alphabet, numbers, and words. As each letter appeared on the board, the children watched with wide eyes, while the parents remained outside, proud and emotional. As classes continued, Madeline soon realized she needed more help. Teaching was a challenging job, especially with children at different learning levels. She asked for volunteers from among the workers and their families to teach what they knew. Soon, the school offered not only traditional lessons in reading and arithmetic, but also hands-on lessons in subjects like natural science, history, music, and singing, all thanks to the collective knowledge and talents within the community. Over time, teaching became a full community effort. Peter, skilled with tools, began showing the older children how to make small repairs, working with wood and nails. Sarah shared her sewing skills, teaching both boys and girls to create small pieces of clothing. Others taught about gardening, harvesting, and animal care. For the children, each day at school was a new adventure, an exploration of the world around them. Through both traditional lessons and practical skills, they became more confident, curious, and creative. The school had grown into more than just a place of instruction. It was a source of inspiration, a place where dreams could take root. One day, while watching the children's lesson from a distance, Harvey approached Madeline during a break. "I never imagined a school would make such a difference," he admitted, observing the children engrossed in their activities. "I always thought that work on the farm was all they needed, but I see now that it's much more." Madeline smiled and nodded. "The farm teaches them so much, Harvey, but the school helps them understand the world beyond it. It gives them tools to make choices." Harvey sighed, looking slightly emotional. "This community has something special, something I never thought I'd see. Everyone here looks out for each other. And now I realize that this farm is a home to more than just work." As time went on, Harvey became an even stronger supporter of the school, contributing materials and books to encourage its growth. For him, the school symbolized not only the children's development, but also the future of a farm that thrived on the unity and respect shared by all. With the school firmly established, the farm had become more than a work community. It was now a center of learning and personal growth. The children grew up with new perspectives and the opportunity to choose whether to stay on the farm or pursue their own paths, equipped to face the world with knowledge and confidence. Benjamin and Madeline watched this transformation with deep satisfaction. The farm they had helped to shape was now a place of fulfilled dreams, where everyone, both adults and children, could find purpose and growth. The dream of a dignified and meaningful life had become a reality for everyone there. At the end of each day, watching the children leave school with smiles on their faces and notebooks in their hands, Benjamin and Madeline felt they had left a lasting mark. This farm was more than just a place of sustenance. It had become a symbol of unity, resilience, and hope for everyone who called it home. With the school running smoothly and the children learning eagerly, life on the farm continued to flourish. The next project Madeline proposed was a community garden filled with fruits and vegetables, where the women could cultivate produce and even sell some of it for extra income for their families. For many, The idea of earning their own money was exciting, especially for the women, who dreamed of enhancing their homes and improving their family's quality of life. Madeline shared her proposal one clear evening around the fire. If each family plants what they know best, we'll have a plentiful harvest. We can sell the surplus at the village market and invest in whatever each family needs, she said with enthusiasm. Sarah and the other women were thrilled. While they were familiar with growing vegetables, the opportunity to generate their own income brought new meaning to the project. Not only will we have fresh produce on our tables, but we can also offer it to anyone who'd like to buy it, Sarah said, excitedly. We can plant herbs, greens, fruits, and even make preserves. With Harvey's support, who again offered a plot of land for the initiative, the work began. Benjamin and Peter helped prepare the soil, while the women gathered seeds and saplings from home or traded with neighbors. Over the days, the plot transformed into a vibrant green space, with rows of lettuce, carrots, tomatoes, aromatic herbs, and saplings of strawberries, raspberries, and fig trees that, when grown, would bear fruit for years to come. As the garden grew and weeks passed, the first signs of a harvest began to appear. For the women, seeing the vegetables and fruits ripen under the sun brought immense pride. They felt the garden represented something special, a place where they could exercise their creativity, hard work, and independence. Madeline organized a meeting to discuss the next step, selling the produce at the village market. With baskets full of fresh vegetables, fruits, and herbs, the women prepared for the trip. They created homemade labels and crafted rustic, inviting packaging from leaves and cloth. Along with the fresh produce, Madeline encouraged each woman to bring jars of preserves and fruit compotes, which were well loved in the region. On Saturday morning, the women headed to the market with their loaded baskets. For many, it was their first time selling something they had produced themselves, and the anticipation was high. The village market was bustling, filled with merchants and customers of all ages. The customers, drawn by the freshness and authenticity of the farm-grown produce, quickly gathered around to discover the women's work. The first day at the market was a resounding success. People appreciated the quality of the products, and the authenticity of the locally grown produce won over many customers. The women returned to the farm with empty baskets and pockets filled with a modest but significant amount of money. To each woman, that income symbolized not only extra earnings but also independence and recognition for their work. That evening around the fire, Sarah shared her happiness. "I never imagined we could accomplish so much with what we grew," she said, holding Madeline's hand in gratitude. "This money will help so much at home. But more than that, it feels like we've done something that's ours." From that day forward, trips to the market became a regular part of the routine. The women began planning and organizing to plant what was most in demand by customers, increasing the variety and quality of their produce. In addition to fruits and vegetables, they started selling dried herbs, edible flowers, spices, and new kinds of preserves. The success was such that, within a few weeks, they began receiving orders directly from village merchants. With the extra income from the market, families began to make further improvements to their homes, buy clothes for the children, and even invest in tools to enhance production on the farm. The community garden project transformed the daily lives of the women, who now felt like essential contributors to the well-being of everyone in the community. Encouraged by their success, the women started brainstorming ways to expand the project. Madeline proposed learning to make natural soaps and other handmade goods to sell alongside their fruits and vegetables. Sarah suggested they create a rotating schedule to ensure that everyone could attend the market without neglecting other farm responsibilities. With each new idea, their unity and entrepreneurial spirit grew stronger. Harvey, witnessing the independence and commitment of these women, was deeply impressed. He supported them whenever possible, providing the resources they needed to keep the project thriving. Watching the energy and pride that the garden brought to the farm, he saw it as more than a source of income. It was a wellspring of dignity and empowerment. The success of the garden project provided more than just fresh, quality produce for the farm community. It became a genuine source of independence and fulfillment for the women. The extra income from the market and custom orders gave them a new sense of freedom and opportunity. It wasn't just a financial boost, it was a means to improve their family's quality of life in tangible ways. For many of the women, it was their first time having their own money to spend, and the choices they made, while simple, held deep meaning. Sarah, for example, took her children to the village to buy new school supplies, letting them choose the notebooks and colorful pencils they had always wanted. The children's excitement and gratitude were a special reward for Sarah, who now saw just how much these small accomplishments could mean. With the money earned from selling fruits, vegetables, and preserves, the women began investing in things that once seemed out of reach. Some made sure to buy toys for their children, gifts that brought joy and brightened the nights around the campfire. Others took the opportunity to treat themselves for the first time, going to the village hairdresser, buying a new dress, or choosing something small to lift their spirits and confidence. Watching the happiness among the women and the impact that extra income brought to each of them, Madeline felt deeply moved. She knew this money was more than a material benefit. It was proof that hard work and unity had the power to transform lives. The garden project was no longer just a means of subsistence. It was a source of dignity, a symbol of each woman's ability to build a better future. The women grew even closer through the project, sharing ideas on diversifying their products and finding the best ways to invest their earnings to benefit their families. Now, the village market was a highly anticipated event each week, and every sale was celebrated not just for its monetary value, but for what it represented for each family's well-being. Beyond securing the basics like school supplies, clothing, and toys, the income also allowed for small luxuries that had once seemed impossible. With each new accomplishment, the women strengthened the spirit of the community, turning the farm into a home where everyone felt valued and empowered to dream and prosper. For Benjamin and Madeline, witnessing this transformation was the greatest reward of all. The farm they had helped to build and nurture over the years was now a place of pride, where hard work and a strong sense of community created opportunities for all. The small community garden, born from a desire for better food, had blossomed into a source of joy and hope for every family. The legacy of unity and self-sufficiency they had built together would live on, strengthening the bonds of the farm for generations to come. What had once been a place of hard work and anonymity was now a home for a community that understood the value of commitment and joy in each action. With the garden, the school, the market, the improvements to their homes, and the personal accomplishments of each individual, the farm had become a living example of how self-sufficiency and unity can create an environment of prosperity and harmony. Above all, the people there understood that this transformation had only happened because each one had chosen to take responsibility for their own lives and attitudes. Benjamin and Madeline, who had inspired this journey of change, watched the farm's spirit with quiet gratitude. One evening, gathered around the fire with their friends, Benjamin decided to share one last reflection on what they had learned and achieved together. "If there's one thing I've learned here," he began with a calm voice and steady gaze, "it's that it doesn't help to place blame on the boss, lack of money, or hardships. When we choose to be in a place, it's up to us to give our best, whether in daily tasks or big accomplishments. It's not about what we lack. It's about what we do with what we have." Peter nodded, recalling his own transformation when he adopted Benjamin's perspective and began viewing his work not as a burden, but as an opportunity to contribute. "I used to think work was a prison," he admitted, "but now I see that true freedom lies in how we choose to do things. When we approach our work with joy and care, everything around us changes." Madeline, looking at the faces of her friends in the firelight, added, "Good attitudes are contagious. When we care for our space, when we plant and harvest with gratitude, we create an environment that welcomes and sustains. It's like this garden that began as a small idea and now feeds us all." The importance of self-responsibility was clear to everyone. Each one understood they had an essential role in the community, and that their collective success depended on individual effort and attitude. The farm had flourished not only because Harvey provided the space or resources, but because each person had chosen to do their best and treat the place as their own home. They knew that a job done with joy and purpose became more than a duty. It was a contribution to their own growth and to the community that supported them. As the years passed, the farm continued to flourish, and the spirit of unity and commitment grew stronger with each new generation. The children, who had learned about responsibility, cooperation, and honest work from a young age, grew up with the same pride in the place that their parents felt. The school, the garden, the home improvements, and the local market became part of the routine for everyone, but also represented the legacy of a group that had chosen to live and work with purpose. At the end of that evening, watching the starlight reflected in the faces of friends and family, Benjamin and Madeline felt the peace that comes from knowing they had fulfilled a larger purpose. The farm was now much more than a means of survival. It was proof that, with responsibility, good attitudes, and the desire to do one's best, any place could become a home, and any community could thrive. What they had built together was a story of life, of learning, and of love for the work they did. And as the fire crackled under the starry sky, the farm rested peacefully, knowing that each person there, by choosing to improve the world around them, had left a legacy of hope, dignity, and purpose that would echo for generations. The story of Benjamin and Madeline shows us that, with courage, self-responsibility, and a positive attitude, we can transform the place we inhabit and, even more, inspire those around us. The couple arrived at the farm seeking a dignified life, but they found something even greater: the chance to build, alongside their colleagues, a community that supports, learns, and thrives together. Throughout their journey, Benjamin and Madeline led by example, planting seeds of unity and renewal in each project, from the creation of a garden to the founding of a school and financial independence for the families. Each achievement was marked by conscious choices and a dedication to doing their best, no matter the challenges. And as they looked back, they realized that what they had built there went far beyond a series of initiatives. They had created a community based on trust, cooperation, and a shared desire to transform lives. The farm became a home where work was done with purpose and joy, and where each person had an essential role in building a better future. In the end, the true legacy they left was not material but a way of life, showing that true transformation begins within each of us. As future generations carried forward what they had started, the spirit of Benjamin and Madeline remained alive on the farm, a reminder that with the right attitude and responsibility, we can all be agents of change.